Hi everyone, welcome to my virtual Friel X Talk. I'm here today to talk to you about my undergraduate honors research project. My project is focused around a topic that is sometimes difficult and sometimes uncomfortable, so I'll start with a content warning and let you know that I will be speaking about sexualized violence, and more specifically, sexualized violence services and the accessibility of them to racialized students. My name is Claire Joseph. I'm a fourth year nursing student here at St. FX, and I'm also probably the only racialized person in this room right now. This is something that's been really common for me throughout my learning experience here at St. FX, and to me, this has led to a piqued interest in health equity, intersectionality, and social justice. My time in university and here at St. FX has been really great, incredible, honestly. I feel like I've really done it all. I've lived in the precarious college housing, I've made the best friendships, I've made memories to last a lifetime, I've worked a ton of odd jobs on campus, from coat check to a teaching assistant, a lab assistant, and a lifeguard. I've really had a great experience here at St. FX. I've found a lot of success, I've found great mentors, and I'm really, really lucky to be here. And so I mean it when I say that for me, the university experience has been overwhelmingly positive. However, I am acutely aware of all the students who have come to the same campus as me or other university campuses across Canada and who have been met with experiences of sexualized violence throughout their university time. What we know about sexualized violence is that it is not rare and that it is happening. We know it's happening here at St. FX, we watch it on the news, we hear about it on the campus paper and through the grapevine and from our friends. A 2017 survey showed that of students asked, 45.5% had experienced sexualized violence during their time here on campus. Current estimates across Canada also show that undergraduate students are consistently at high risk of experiencing sexualized violence. Estimates from Sinizich and Langton in 2014 show that undergraduate women are 3 times as likely to experience sexualized violence as those in the general public. And a large sample of undergraduate women in Canada show that 58.7% of undergraduate women have experienced at least one form of sexualized violence since the age of 14. And these numbers are astounding, and so it's important to keep in mind that when you hear about all these people who are experiencing sexualized violence, is that we also know how harmful it is. Sexualized violence affects mental health, physical health, reproductive health, academic success, career pursuits, and it's lasting impacts. It's not just right now. Those who have experienced sexualized violence are often referred to as victims or survivors, and I just want to take a moment to thank those who have spoken out about their own personal experiences in the past and who have really paved the way for people to start talking about it and start working on it and start researching it. It's been really, really important to the development of these projects. So what happens next? We know that sexualized violence is happening, we know it's an issue, and we know it's harmful for people. There's been huge influxes of interest as a result of all these people sharing their stories in the light of the Me Too movement, and this is fantastic. We've had enough people speaking out about it that we've gotten the attention from federal governments, provincial governments, and we have our funding, and this is great. None of this stuff was even happening 10 or 15 years ago. However, this is where I found my research problem. I was thinking, I said to myself, okay, step 1. We've investigated sexualized violence. We know that it's happening. We see it's happening everywhere. Step 2, we've got the interest of the government. We've got our funding. Step 3, we're going to get the best experts from across Canada. This is going to be great. They're going to work together. We're going to develop it. Step 4, we've got all our new services. We've got new programs. We've got new stuff on campus. We've got new positions. Everything's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to implement this. We're going to stop sexualized violence from happening. But that's not what we found. What we have seen in the literature is that the rates of sexualized violence have remained consistent over the past 20 years. So I'm saying that I believe there's something missing, and for me, that missing piece is in the accessibility of these services. For some reason, students are not able to access the services they need. The prevention is only as effective as how many students are able to get that education, and not everyone is able to access it. So for me, I believe there's something missing. I believe the issue is within accessibility. I decided to take a closer look at who are the people who are most likely to be experiencing sexualized violence. Who do we know are consistently being targeted by harassment, violence of all forms, and who do we know are consistently experiencing increased barriers to all types of health services across Canada and in Nova Scotia as well, and that is the racialized people. And I looked back and I said, who's on these committees that are being used to develop these new guidelines? Who's involved in these research studies that are informing these new sexualized violence prevention and response services? And racialized people are not well represented in this area, in this category. So we know that racialized people have the most barriers to access, and we also know that they're the most likely to require these services. And to me, that's a huge issue that requires further investigation. So I set out to find out more about how we could make these services more accessible, and specifically how we can make these services, these great new survivor-centric services we've implemented, more accessible for racialized students. So I'm currently in the process of conducting a qualitative study where I'm asking service providers for their perspective and their insights on the experience of access to sexualized violence services for racialized students.
So this project ties in with your honors project. What inspired you to take on this topic?
So I think what really inspired me to start looking at this research project is probably some of the current events that have happened through my time here at St. FX. I think that, when I was in high school, I didn't know a lot about sexualized violence. I hadn't heard about it a lot. And when I came to St. FX, I realized that this is not just something scary that happens in TV shows and Criminal Minds and all those other true crime documentaries, that this is something that happens to people that I know, and this is something that happens to people who are just students just like me. And it was something that piqued my interest, and I realized that we don't know enough about this. The Me Too movement came along, and that's something that I think we all started to pay more attention to sexualized violence in the recent years. And so last year, when it came time for me to talk about my undergraduate honors project and figure out a topic for that, I wanted to see if there was an area there that was still needing to be investigated. And then for me, specifically as a racialized student, I wanted to see if those voices had been included, because I've noticed in my time, I'm in the nursing program, sexualized violence is related to health services very closely, and racialized people in general, they have a more difficult time accessing healthcare, and we've seen that time and time again. And so I wanted to see if I could find a place where if this had been investigated already, and I saw that it hadn't, and I realized that this is a huge research problem, and I wanted to look a little bit closer.
So the next question is, what have you found to be the hardest part of this project or of your research? And then on the flip side of that, what has been the best, most rewarding part of it?
Well, that's a big question, and there's different types of hard. For me, one type of hard is, it was really difficult to look at the real scope of sexualized violence and how that's been happening. It's not one or two students that this is happening to. It's not just the ones that are, making it to the newspapers. It's more like 1 in 2 students when you look at the data across Canada right now, which is really scary. And so that was a difficult part. But the most rewarding part has definitely been working with all these great mentors. I feel like I've definitely made the most out of my university experience through investigating such an important topic like this, and working with all types of leaders across campus and other grant recipients on these important topics. And so that's been definitely the most rewarding, is just feeling like I'm contributing to something important and getting to learn alongside some of these really great, brilliant people.
So what are your thoughts on the discussion of race and racism within the sciences? There tends to be less of these discussions happening than, say, within the humanities or social sciences, and why do you think that is?
I think being in the nursing program is kind of a unique space because it is very much sciences, but I also feel that it's a bit inextricable from the humanities social science area as well. And so to me, racism and discussions of race, they are happening in nursing. They are, but not enough yet, because it does have that science background, it does have that medical model that we're working to dismantle at the moment. And I think that it's really important to continue having these discussions because, even in practice, I see it. I see racial discrimination in healthcare, and I see how the sickest patients are those who have been marginalized in our society. And so I think the more that we look into how to make sure that these services are working for those people who are more likely to require them, the more effective our healthcare system can be in general. And I definitely believe in upstream approaches. And so the more that we work to dismantle racism and we work to provide services that are accessible and to those who require them, the cheaper that it will actually be, and the better, it's better to look upstream than downstream, health promotion style.
Why are discussions of race and racism important for healthcare professionals to engage in?
Because as healthcare providers, we are all committed to, or at least as nurses, we're all committed to this code of ethics. And part of that is social justice. Part of that is serving all those with dignity and with respect. And to me, that is impossible to do if you're only able to care respectfully for those who are the dominant group in your area. You have to be able to, care for those who are sick, care for those who need it the most. And so I think that having discussions of racism and having an understanding of, of privilege and of intersectionality and of oppression and how those experiences and how those cycles contribute to health outcomes and health disparities is really, really important to make sure you're being a good care provider.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years or in 10 years? What does that look like?
This is an exciting question for me. I love to think about the future and dream about the future, and because I love it so much, I see a lot of different options, a lot of different pathways. I'm at a really exciting point in my career, which is the beginning of it, where I can really go anywhere from here. And so I really am interested right now in public health. I'm interested in being where I'm needed. I love the geriatric population. That's something I've learned. And I'm also interested in working on more research. I definitely want to continue this project into like a master's area one day, hopefully, and get on the ground interviews with racialized students, which was a bit out of the scope for an undergraduate project. It was a bit, too difficult to get through ethics for that kind of thing. I only have a year to get this done. Those kind of things were barriers to that bigger project that I'm really, really interested in. So hopefully within 10 years, I will have completed another research project looking into that racialized student experience more in depth. Hopefully within 10 years, I will have done some public health and some health promotion and like health teaching. I'm really passionate about teaching. I've always loved tutoring. I love programming. I like, I've been a camp director. Things like that are just fun for me. And so maybe I'll be moving into that direction in the next 10 years.